Okay, fantastic. So we're here today with Jennifer Henry. She is the CEO of Core Resolution Systems, and of course, Kymberly Lind, who is the Executive Director of California Recovers. So thanks for coming and talking with me today, guys. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
I love our topic.
What is the topic?
The topic is going to be connection, the importance on connecting with ourselves, most importantly, and so that we can connect with the world around us.
Yes, the workshop.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we have a workshop coming up.
We do. So not this Sunday, but next. So February 23rd from 1 to 4, we're going to be spending 3 hours doing an integrative workshop around the art of connection. So the ability to connect to ourselves so that we can better form relationships, healthy relationships in our life. I find that it's,
it's interesting is the longer that we've been in this community of people, and I guess this community of people is folks that are either recovering or they're suffering and they're needing something more, something a little bit more. And so this is our community, and the longer that we've been in it, the more we can see. And Kymberly and I were talking about the fact that it's a person's inability to do a self-assessment that really keeps them from moving forward in life. And so for 12-step groups, right, that's an opportunity to do that through steps. But of course, there's many ways to become self-aware. What was your journey like, Jennifer?
So I did. I have a background in recovery. And so I practiced in AA and NA and CODA, which is Codependence Anonymous. And I realized that it wasn't the alcohol, it wasn't the drugs, it wasn't the men, it wasn't the women, it was so much deeper than that. It was core issues.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's where Core Resolution Systems stems from, is the fact that for me, it was about getting to the core resolution for what it is that I needed, what my non-negotiables needed to be, like what I needed to put in place to be able to become the person that I know I was meant to be, that made me feel fulfilled.
Yeah. I think a lot of folks are not in touch with who they're supposed to be.
No.
But before we talk about that, talk to me about non-negotiables. What are some of your non-negotiables?
The gym, movement, purposeful movement. Now, I don't care if it's 5 minutes of stretching in the morning or if it's 90 minutes of like a crazy high intensity sweat sesh or lifting session, whatever movement, or maybe going swimming or maybe going rollerblading or maybe anything that can get your mind and body connected for a period of time so that you can increase endorphins, increase serotonin levels, naturally increase the positive chemicals in your brain and your body.
I can see why that's a non-negotiable for you, because it's really working for you.
Well, as someone who practices functional medicine and doesn't take medication for my chemical imbalances and my mental illnesses, I have to find the practices that work best for me so that I can keep a balance in, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, be able to, and chemically, be able to maintain a balance so there's no real highs and lows when I'm naturally inclined to them. And I had to figure out what the boundaries were that I had to set around me so that I could build those healthy relationships with other people, because I knew what I needed to have in place and I was keeping that in place. And so I was the healthiest version of myself in all aspects. Therefore, I knew what I was looking for in my relationships, and I knew what I wasn't looking for anymore.
And did you know at that point how to maintain those relationships, or were you at that point just really learning about self-connection?
In the beginning, and there's some weight to what they say in anonymous programs when they say, give yourself a year. That's why, because if you are immediately connecting to someone and when we are empathetic beings, or when we're caring, loving beings naturally, we tend to immediately want to nurture and mother, especially women.
Sure.
We need to feel needed, and it's part of our being okay. And when we rely so much on that, we tend to disconnect from what we need to feel to be okay, what we need in our lives, the things we need from other people and from ourselves.
Well, that's interesting, because the way that I was raised, you always put other people's needs above your own. You considered everyone's more important than yourself.
How did that work out for you?
Seeking your own happiness was something that a shallow, non-spiritual person would do. And that was the culture I was raised in.
Right.
So what that created was a dangerous codependent.
Exactly.
And it's taken me 15 years to move away from that. And a lot of that was, like you've been talking about, through self-connection. I was fortunate I got to use 12 steps, but it didn't stop there for me either.
Right.
That was
and
just
it doesn't.
that was the kickoff board for me, for sure. Well, so Kymberly, when you're out there and you're with the folks and you see people really struggling, how much does self-awareness really play into them staying in their addiction, maybe staying on the street, staying in an abusive marriage? This lack of connection or healthy connection or even connection to self, do you see that out there?
Yeah,
what does that
because
look like?
I think that it's survival skills. Okay, so when someone's naturally in like that fight or flight, flee mode all the time, they're denying their natural instincts. Like something in me is going to tell me I'm terrified to go home tonight. I'm so scared to walk in that connections house. Like I know if I put these substances in my body right now, how anything could happen. I could end up in jail, sick, overdose, like all kinds of things. And we deny that. Yeah. Because we have to do what we have to do, and it's all, so much of that is done subconscious. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's
like for me too, it took me a while to dig to the bottom of this principle. And that is that substance use or codependency or over-shopping or a million other things, they're simply a symptom of a problem. The drugs, that's not really the problem. That's just, it's like mood swings are for someone that has bipolar. For a person that has substance use disorder, the actual using is, in fact, a symptom. And if we expect folks to, hey, give up, stop using for 2 or 3 days or 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 months, and then you can come get treatment, and then we'll help you. That's kind of the same as saying to somebody that maybe has schizophrenia, stop hearing voices, and as soon as you stop hearing voices, we can treat you. We could take you into this treatment center.
Right, or a diabetic.
Right.
Stop having cancer symptoms, and then we can help you with your cancer. It's
exactly. So when we see drug use then as a symptom, it makes it a little bit...
Yeah.
It's more real, I think. It helps us understand what the core problem is that Jen was talking about. Mm-hmm. And for me, there was some real core problems. And I remember sitting there in the beginning of my recovery thinking, what on earth is wrong with me that I would give away my will and my life to drugs? And it took a little while to get to that.
So this is where I can definitely say I could talk for 1,000 hours on this, because
fantastic.
That is that seeking disconnection. Mm-hmm. You are seeking disconnection from self. When someone is chasing food, drugs, sex, alcohol, shopping, codependence, whatever it is, it's disconnection from self. It's the inability to connect to self. Right?
Or the pain of trying to do so is so great, you just can't do it anymore.
Inability to connect to
self.
For any reason. So what's interesting is now 10 years into recovery, for me, this is my 10th year. I'm excited to be celebrating that.
Yeah.
And the more I move forward with this, the more uncomfortable I am with disconnection. And so I've had to create healthy times of disconnection for myself, because otherwise I'm connected all the time. And when you're first learning how to do this, I've had a couple clients like, I'm exhausted. I am exhausted. It's hard to be constantly tuning into self. And it is. But it's just like anything else. When you first start doing bicep curls or push-ups, you're going to use 2.5 or 5 pounds. You're not going to use 25 pounds. But over time, over the years, over the days, the weeks, the months, you start to build this natural resistance. You start to build this almost scar tissue. You start to build this ability to stretch into and become like the very best version of yourself, because you get more comfortable being in your skin, and you learn how to listen to that voice that Kymberly was referring to. That's like, hey, this isn't a good idea. Let's not do this. Like, that's called honoring your yeses and nos, and that's definitely something that my clients and I dig into. Is what does it really look like? What is self-care really? Right? We've got all this like, let's take baths and let's go to the
right.
spa, and that's wonderful. That's amazing. What a blessing if you're able to do those kind of things. things. But if all you're able to do is say yes when you want to say yes and say no when you don't want to do something, that is real self-care. That is real balance. That is real boundaries.
Oh, that's so
and
huge.
Those are the boundaries that we need to set in order to create that balance that we found by connecting to self and seeking connection to self.
Yeah. It's really exciting. I know that you're in fitness, and so this concept of lifting weights and lifting heavier weights and the muscle memory is something that I really love, and I think it's a nice play on what we do. At first, these practices that we start to do, they're very uncomfortable, they're very exhausting. Like your clients that called and said, oh, connecting with myself is so exhausting. It is very exhausting at first, but we keep doing it. And we keep doing it the same way and the same way. And eventually we have muscle memory. Mm-hmm. So in these circumstances or these opportunities for connecting with ourselves, it's automatic. It takes a while, but I love that muscle memory kicks in and you find eventually your default is no longer the sick response. It's now the power forward response.
Absolutely. And I know that I've reached where I need to with my clients because when they default, they're defaulting back to good habits.
Oh, I love that.
In the beginning, the first 4 or 5 weeks, we always end up in the self-sabotage session because, I see it happening and I see the disconnection happening because it's difficult. It's difficult and it takes practice. And in the beginning, we're all gung-ho. We just invested thousands of dollars into this program. I'm definitely all in. And then the pain of the investment is kind of like a little, and the further and further it gets away, 4 or 5, 6 months down the road, it's not affecting you as much anymore. Yeah. And you start to disconnect because the connection to the investment is gone. And so right? And so it's interesting because then all of a sudden, or vice versa, even before they invest, the question of self-worth, even if they have the money, are they worth the investment?
So this is kind of a common story across the board, whether it's park place or park bench, that's a common story.
Absolutely.
Women just don't understand their value. They just don't.
No, they don't. Oh, gosh, that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
It is. Though. I think probably the three of us at this table don't even understand our own value. It's
probably not.
Yeah. So I guess connecting to self is also coming to understand what you bring to the world, which is kind of cool. So talk to me about some behaviors we talked about disconnecting. Drug use is disconnecting. So have you had other clients or people come to you that had other issues that were really keeping them from connecting?
Yeah. Just life. I mean, people pleasing. I mean, that's the biggest one, I think. I think moms trying to be everybody's everything. I think it's, sometimes it's women wanting to be everything for their husband and running around like a chicken with their head cut off in their husband's business, not really being seen or heard, even in their own business. Like maybe they have careers that they've been in forever and they just can't get to that next level because they are, one, maybe not confident enough, or two, they just don't know, they cannot see what that next level even looks like because they're so caught up in being there and doing everything for everyone else that they can't even see what their next step. They've gotten so disconnected that they don't even really recognize who they are when they look in the mirror anymore.
So
right?
When you look in the mirror and you don't know who you are anymore,
yeah.
What's the first thing a person really has to do in order to start that journey towards connection?
Ooh, just get curious. Get curious and start asking. Start asking yourself questions. Like ask yourself, get to know yourself again. What do you want? Where are you, first of all?
Maybe you never got to know yourself.
Maybe never. Yeah. And so maybe first, I think the first step technically is figure out where you're at. What does it really look like? Like get a real mirror, not a fun mirror from the sort, but a real mirror. And figure out where you're at in your health, in your life, in your relationships, in your career, in your education, in your level of joy, in your spiritual connection, in your social life. Like, what does it actually look like right now? And then, what do you want it to look like? Right.
So, what are you finding? And Kymberly, you might have some thoughts on this too. I know in substance abuse, the catalyst is, your life is unmanageable, you're going to jail or you're going to die, right? And that's the catalyst that propels people in a 12-step group forward. But obviously there's other catalysts in life, right? And I'm finding more and more that sometimes these catalysts are the most uncomfortable, horrible life experiences. So somebody might come to you in the middle of a terrible trauma. Maybe they're going through a divorce or their child committed suicide. I mean, I'm just thinking of people that, that I've had experience with, and you look at those folks a little bit, and I have to ask myself, how can I help this person? What's their catalyst? Is it the death of their child? Is it the divorce? Is that the catalyst? And how important is it for us to acknowledge these huge events that move us into a different direction, even when they're uncomfortable or horrible?
A common question I would ask one of the clients that when clients do deal with trauma, first of all, making sure that they understand that I'm not a therapist, right? Because I'm a coach. And while we do touch on the person who has been dealing with trauma, we don't dig around in it. It's not something that I work with my clients on. What I do is work on who they are now because of it and what they're going to do now because of it.
So you're still having them link back to it. Like this.
My question would be something along the lines of, what does the you then need to know? What does the you then need to know?
Okay, we can share the experience when
So-
I was on the stage.
Go ahead, tell it, Kymberly.
Well, we can give you an example.
Okay, so for example,
we'll do the exercise a little bit.
Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes, and I would have them close their eyes, and I would have them step into self. And what I mean by that is,
Talk to me.
Okay, so Kymberly, for example, if Kymberly was my client, she comes to me and she's saying, there's the part of me, and I don't know what, I just feel like it's just been bothering me. It's been coming up a lot in my conversation, in my thoughts. It's been making me doubt myself. It's been making me question which direction I should, just whatever is coming up for her because of this traumatic event. And so what I would invite her to do is to associate into herself, to go into herself, and to put herself on a stage. And I don't know, first person games, right? Like where you can see the hands in front of you, and you hear through the ears and you speak through the mouth, but you don't see the person. So you yourself are experiencing this. And she would look out, and I want you to picture yourself in this amphitheater or in this outside concert venue, okay? And I want you to be on stage, and I want you to be holding the mic, and I want you to call out to all of your parts. And I want you to invite all of your parts of you to this arena, to this amphitheater. And I want you to look out in the audience, and I want you to acknowledge every single part of you that has a voice, even the ones you haven't given a voice yet. And I want you to start to ask different questions. Whatever feels right to you, that's coming up for you, and find out which part needs to speak.
See, we did this exact same thing as what she did with me when we were coaching. And I love the Hollywood Bowl. So that's my mind. It's empty, beautiful, amazing theater, and all those stadium seating, concrete, everything. And I'm up on the stage. And then I have this little audience of me. Little girl, teenager, punk rocker, break dancer, businesswoman, college person, a mom,
daughter.
like all these, and then there's me and my current self, and so that's where I ended up in that moment. That's what I was visualizing, and then she went on to say, "Who's there?" Right?
Yeah.
You asked me.
So who is there?
Yeah, so automatically I identified that this teenage girl that I have that exists in me, she's just like the one that comes out swinging. She's just like, I got this. Everybody can take their seats now. Sit down. I got this. And so I'm on the stage. She asked me who was there, and I told her.
And so I asked her, what does she have to say? And she went on to tell me what she had to say. And then I asked her if she felt heard. And there was a conversation that went around that. And what did she need to hear from the you now?
Yeah.
What did she need to know that she can carry with her forward from the you now that knows better?
Yeah.
Right?
And did you have a message
that
for
knows
her?
all the things?
Yeah.
You did.
Do you want to share that with everyone?
Well, my message, my teenage girl told the audience, you can all chill out now. I got this, have a seat. And then she said, it's okay to be a little girl. It's okay. And you let me know. I let myself know that, we had these other people in the audience that are there for you and that we're going to take care of you.
And she's not alone, and that, you know, she didn't have to do it all.
Yeah.
She didn't have to save everybody.
Because I wasn't doing a
remember
good
that.
job.
That's really a profound exercise to go through.
Oh, and it's just one of so many, just depending on whatever.
I could see how that could go a long way to helping you connect.
And then we sent that little girl back out to the group, and the group took care of her. So that was the gist of it. So.
And that's really nice.
And I love that one because it resonates with me all the time, because I check in with that little person in me who's usually...
So that is your... You keep checking back to your catalyst. I was wondering about that because I know in substance use 12 steps, it's a constant going back to, so you don't use drugs, 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 right? And so I would naturally go, so I don't want to get, divorced again, or I don't want to get sick again. I don't want to get sick again, so I'm going to stay healthy. So that catalyst, that thing that moves us forward, you're finding that sometimes it's something it's good to stay connected to, and other times we're just not going to mess with that. We're just going to keep going. It just is an individual thing? Yeah. Is that how it works?
It is an individual thing, but for the most part, it's just the connection. It's just making that connection, being okay to be okay, being okay in your own skin. And I think that that's what it comes down to. It's like, we can get sober or not use the drug of our choice that makes us crazy, because of all these other reasons and outside resources, or outside reasonings. But the truth is like the number one reason is if once you get okay connecting to yourself, then you don't need drugs. Once you get okay learning how to balance your own self, mind, body, and spirit, when
I started taking a look at myself, it was very, very uncomfortable. I don't know if you guys remember the Julia Roberts movie called Runaway Bride.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she had all these different husbands or all these different fiancés. And
talk about critter brain.
Yeah, with each one, she would like their music, eat food the way they want, whatever they were interested, she was interested in. Yeah. And so she gets to a point in this movie where she thinks, I don't know what I like. I don't even know how I like to eat my eggs.
Those are my ideal clients.
So she goes in the kitchen and she starts making all these eggs. So that is what I think about now.
That's what I do with my client. That's the perfect description of
15 years ago when I came into recovery, who I was someone that my parents told me who I was. Mm-hmm. And my religion told me who I was, and society told me who I was. Love it. Yeah. And everybody told me who I was. And I tried very hard to live successfully there, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
And it was extremely painful. And so when I first started the process of recovery myself, I remember going through the same thing. What kind of music do I like to listen to? Yeah. How do I like my eggs cooked? I wasn't really sure. Do I like to be on a motorcycle? I don't know. I've never been on a motorcycle. It's just, I had no idea about anything. I was trying very, very hard to be that person that everybody wanted me to be, and for each person it was something different, so it was exhausting.
And that's why it's so important just to start getting in and having fun with curiosity.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that kills it, and this is where it's like, it's got to be curiosity over judgment, because there's only two, like there's fear or love, right? And when we start looking at it in love, and we start,
and not just for others, but for ourselves.
That's what I
really
mean. Absolutely,
about, right?
Like in love for ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, so either I'm going to fear you, or I'm going to have fear being myself, or I'm going to love being myself. Like that's really the only two options, right?
Mm-hmm. Was it uncomfortable for you when you started touching base with who you really were? And did you like that person?
Yeah, and I'm still doing that today. To this day, I battle people pleasing. To this day, I'm in recovery from codependency. I'm in recovery 100% every single day from people pleasing. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I can't even... It's so difficult. Because of course we're worried about others' judgment. I'm so judgmental of myself. And so I have to be so kind, and I catch myself out loud. I have to catch myself. Jennifer, stop. You're such a bitch. Like, don't be such a bitch. Like, and I'm talking to my own self. And, I'm going to tell you, like, they say you're crazy when you start responding, but I've had full-blown conversations out loud with myself. Full-blown. And other people chime in. And it just is what it is, okay? Like, the fact is. Like, and so this is something that, I started very early on in recovery was, I had this, I would always joke about it. There's this committee meeting going on in my head. And these meetings would start without me. And so I had to do this visualization process where I had created this building, for lack of better terms, that I would slam the doors open. I would walk in, walk up the stairs, walk around, open the next double set of doors, and walk into a huge, long conference table room full of all different kinds of characters, let me just tell you. And I'd hush them up. I am the one in control of this company. You all have a say, but I have the final say. And I've been diagnosed schizoaffective, right? And I've been diagnosed manic depressive bipolar, and I've been diagnosed with ADHD, and I've been diagnosed with issues that I've seen people never be the same again because of meds behind, right? And I myself was on so many medications, right? Not the bare minimum, like should be, but I was on so many different medications that there was no actual way I would ever have been able to connect to self, ever.
Just to numb?
Completely. Yeah, and on drugs. When you're artificially I almost said inseminating.
But you did say it.
No, okay. Well, artificially ingesting, absorbing, taking in chemicals, your body's going to stop producing certain chemicals and have certain reactions to others. And so you're never going to be able to create a true chemical, like a homeostasis situation where everything is balanced, everything is working in tune with, where my gut is completely balanced and my gut and my brain are having good, like solid, clear communication. And, there's just so much. Gut health is a radio show for another day.
It sure
but
is.
It is 100% my secondary focus when it comes to coaching my clients. It's like one of the first things that I like to address. I love if we can get together and get a DNA kit going to find out that's something I really am planning on offering up in this next few months to my VIP clients, because I think it eliminates our need to we're not wasting 21 days, but go through the process of the 21-day detox, cleanse, reintegration cleanse, because of the fact that I'm looking for what foods are causing an inflammatory response and making you emotional and making you moody and making you have these swings and making your blood sugar drop. What are the things that are causing you to have migraines? What are the things that are causing you to have IBS? Because I can look at your food from these blood results and see that. Now, I can't diagnose anything because I am not a doctor, but I can look at what the results are with you and help you to come up with a plan around what that might look like to eat the way that your body really needs you to eat. So that way, when I get that gut balanced, or you get that gut balanced, now there's clear communication between that gut and that brain. And now my mood swings are less, and I have more energy, and I have clarity of mind and focus, and I have, less chronic ailments and pain and inflammation, and I'm healing.
So part of your journey was actually getting off medications.
Right, correct.
But for so many other people, their journey begins with medications.
And it's interesting because it shouldn't.
For everyone, but for some it should.
It's interesting.
I mean, that's a personal...
I don't agree. We'll agree to disagree on that. I do not believe someone's recovery in any sense of the term should start with medication. I believe it should start with food.
So you're probably not talking about people that have very serious mental health issues.
Even there, it should be the first step. If they are introducing medication, their food should change the same day.
Well, I'm sure
it is just as important.
I'm not a doctor, but I'm sure they have a bunch of questions that they ask before they prescribe medication in order to make sure that that's...
I personally know like half a dozen people that don't tell the doctors they drink every day and they're on medications that they shouldn't be on.
Yeah, and sometimes they do.
Because they're going to
and sometimes they do
prescribe.
But I think it's really, really important to realize that there are medical conditions
that do require
in the brain
medication.
and in the body which
I like
require
that you said
medication.
the first thing, because oftentimes that is what doctors will do. I know they did that with me most of my life.
They got 10 hours of nutrition if they went through medical school. If they didn't continue on to functional medicine, which is a continued education from being an MD, then they did not get the kind of nutrition that you think they got, period.
Nutrition?
And they did not.
Education?
Education around nutrition. So a functional medicine doctor is going to focus on the complete health of the from the nervous system, skeletal system, gut system, everything going on, digestive system, everything. And so when we look at a mental health patient, okay, I am not saying this as a doctor, I'm saying this as a coach. When I look at a client who suffers from mental health issues, 100% of the time it is helped because of moving their body on purpose and eating clean and cutting out sugars and cutting out inflammatory foods.
Yeah, that's good for everyone.
Right. And so the medication should be an aid if that isn't working.
Well, certainly medication is not the solution. What we know is that medication is only a part of the solution, and only a part of the solution for some people.
Right.
So, in my way of thinking, I've known so many people who were not able to participate in their recovery because they were so sick. And a medication that allowed them to come back into reality allowed them then to participate in the recovery, and so the medication was important.
And what's sad is that there should be a game plan to come off. You know what I mean? There should be a game plan to at least wean it down to the least amount possible.
Sure, we should all be on the least amount of meds possible. I can agree to that.
Unfortunately, we build resistance to medications. And so even if we look at pain medications, for example, they're the same in the respect of the fact that you build a tolerance. And the only thing that will happen is you continue to build a tolerance and need more. And so that's where a lot of pain management facilities, companies, places will actually completely remove people from pain meds because it is not actually helping in any way, shape, or form. It is actually hindering because the body's never learning how to deal, right? It's really sad.
We know that pain medications create a situation that I'm sure they never intended, and that was, it's this whole circle of you start on them, and then they start to not be as useful, and so you need a little more, and that creates more pain receptors in your body.
Right.
So more pain receptors means more pain. More pain means I'm going to need more medication.
Same exact thing
more medication
for mental
I get,
health medication, though. That's the problem. Is it's the same exact thing for serotonin and dopamine that you're taking. Your body's going to stop producing any of it if it used to. So like antidepressants, for example, if you're taking an antidepressant, your body's not going to be producing serotonin or dopamine on its own as much as it would be, right?
So I think we might have to set that aside for a pharmacist. But what
fair.
I do know is that there is this, with opiates, that there's this problem of creating more pain receptors. The opiates actually do that. So they actually create more pain. Mm-hmm. With other brain medications, let's just say it's an antidepressant, there's antidepressants that work in many different ways.
True,
Some of
fair,
them
yes.
just get the organ to naturally produce the chemicals that it needs.
Mm-hmm. So with those kind of things, so there's different kinds of what people call medication versus supplements. So with supplements, if it's actually just doing that, like for example, there are certain supplements that can help increase the production of the pituitary gland, which in turn will help create more growth hormone. So this is something that people in the fitness industry are very familiar with. Or they just go out and they get the injectable growth hormone. They're two completely different things. Because one is a supplement and one is actually helping, it's natural stuff helping the pituitary or a peptide or a SARM to help produce, to help the pituitary gland itself actually secrete more. So,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are definitely certain supplements. I wouldn't necessarily call them medications, but there are supplements for sure that are great in assisting. That's why I'm so into naturopathy, because there's amino acids, peptides, herbs, all kinds of things that are significantly...
If you're using it to treat a symptom, then it becomes medication. Just because it's
medical
natural,
management, exactly.
It doesn't mean that it's not medication.
Okay,
So,
fair, true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And so
Good point.
I think the way I look at it, I do know that medication's not the whole deal. I do believe that health and moving is everything. And I think there's times when we need to pay attention to our medical professionals and be good stewards of our bodies.
Yes.
Like I take high blood pressure medicine. I also get exercise and keep my weight down and do those things too. Mm-hmm. But in order to keep my blood pressure down so I don't have a heart attack or a stroke, I have to take a medication.
Yeah. Well, absolutely.
Thank God for that.
I mean, that's... so that's a whole, like you said, that's a whole nother story because there's a lot of things that.
So for some people, medication
pressure.
can be the beginning. And so when you first start trying to help someone understand this concept of connecting to self, is it foreign?
Depends if they've ever done it before.
It was very foreign to me.
It is to most people
Yeah.
because, as you said, you're brought up thinking that you have to people please and that you have to be whatever everyone else needs you to be, and that means you're a good person.
So much so, just a little note on personal. My parents had us involved in a religious organization, which the women were definitely subservient to the point where if I was having a bad day or you were having a bad day and you're a woman, you can't let your face show that because that might cause distress to your husband. And so you always had to have this countenance of happiness and joy. And so I learned to put on this face of happiness and joy, even when everything was falling apart inside. And I know there's got to be lots of women and men like me out there. So you can imagine how hard it was for me to connect to self.
Absolutely.
Taking a lot of work. Yeah.
It's a practice for sure. It's a practice, and it doesn't happen overnight.
So what's happening at the workshop?
So many. Okay, so first of all, there's food. Yay!
Yay,
So I'm
always
gonna do a
good.
charcuterie table. So that's like, that's been on my brain because I start designing that like weeks out. I love that.
It's fun.
But we are going to, so it's an integrative workshop. So, after introductions and after we all grab a plate and have a seat, which I'll, so there's going to be an intro, probably like a half hour in the beginning just to get everybody where everybody can be seated. So we'll probably start the workshop at 1:30.
Okay.
And then we'll introduce each other and core resolution systems. And then my first session I'd like to do is around the wheel of life. So for one, identifying where we are in all these different areas of our life. But
A lot of people don't know the wheel of life.
right, and so it's just a wheel, and it has these 8 to 10 different sections,
I think
categories.
SAMHSA says there's 9, but I've seen up to 12, yeah.
Right, that just anywhere from, I've seen 5, the big 5 areas of your life, all the way up to 12, yes, exactly. And what we do is we just kind of figure out where on this scale we are in each of these areas, and what the balance looks like or lack thereof, right?
So it's fearlessly looking at ourselves the way that our days and our weeks and our months are looking right now.
And we often find that a lot of our time and energy is going to others, and that there's very little time and energy going to ourselves. And so we go through a practice where we'll share that, and we'll go around the room and kind of share some of our experiences in that. And we'll start to look at, where are we giving all of our time to? Where are we giving all of our attention? And then vice versa, where are we not really giving any attention to in our lives? What needs a little bit more attention and a little more love, a little more nurturing, so that we can kind of up level, because we're only as strong as our weakest link, right?
That sounds like it's going to be really awesome. I can't wait. We had a good crowd for the last workshop. They were very enthusiastic. I'm sorry we can't have that many back again.
No, unfortunately, it was
Yeah.
a little oversold. I was not preparing for the kind of turnout that we had. I wasn't preparing for, who knew that we were going to not only sell out, but have to roll over into another weekend?
Right.
We did have plenty of food, though.
We did have plenty of food. Absolutely. There's always
Didn't run
gonna
out
be
of food.
Never run out of
Never
food.
run out of food. So yeah, it was exciting to see the level of excitement in the community and how many people wanted to be involved.
Yeah.
It makes me realize that you're really providing a very, very needed service to the community. There's so many people out there that just need someone to stand next to them and move them forward or move them up.
Yeah.
And that's exciting.
It's nice to be able to do it in the group setting. I do a lot with my one-on-one clients, and they get a lot of my attention. And I can only work with 4 or 5 at a time.
Right.
Because they do take so much of my attention. And I love it.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to give that to them. And so to be able to, every 6 weeks or so, do a workshop for the community that isn't super expensive. It's super affordable, right?
Super affordable.
20 people max, really 20. With this one, then we may be able to do 25. But we'll see. Because we're not going to be up and making huge vision boards.
Right.
We're just going to be paired sharing and kind of at our tables. But yeah, just in kind of an intimate setting where we do some real work, some real digging, some real self-reflection, and
You're
every
expecting
week,
to hear some real honesty coming. Yeah.
real honesty,
Yeah.
real raw authenticity. I think that's what it needs. We need to experience more of each other's authenticity, because I feel like we are hiding behind these social media
Yes.
screens.
Yeah.
And so being able to step out from behind the screen,
Yeah.
be in person, feel that love, that connection in person, and really learn how to step into our own skin and be okay and figure out who who we are, what we want, where we're going, all the good things, right?
Yeah.
So every workshop, every 6 weeks is going to kind of build off another, and they will all be very, very similar in nature. But I think like any good book, every time you go through it, you're going to pick up something new. So
almost
I'm
like
excited
one
about
workshop
that.
propels you into the next one, which propels you into the next one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
So.
very exciting. Well, I'm looking forward to it. That is on February 23rd, right here at Core Resolution Systems on Van Buren.
Yes, Sunday.
Yeah, on a Sunday afternoon. So that'll be really nice.
Yeah.
Super. Well, next time we get together, I'm really hoping to hear more about your personal story. And I think I want to hear a little bit more about Core Resolution Systems too.
Awesome.
So we'll do that next time as well.
Sounds good. Thank you
Thanks,
guys
ladies, so
so
much. It was fun.
It was.
And we'll see you at the workshop.
Da 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 da.